All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and get started. So once again, welcome to Microdesk Autodesk Premium Subscription. My name is Jasenia. I am the event coordinator here at Microdesk. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please make sure you're typing them in the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel, not in the chat panel. We'll likely answer all questions at the end of this webinar, but please make sure you're asking them in the correct question box. Also, a recorded version of this webinar will be available on our website and YouTube channel soon. You'll be receiving an email with a link when that's available. And before we jump into the webinar, I just want to introduce Microdesk to you all. So Microdesk was founded in 1994 as an Autodesk reseller with a simple mission: to assist architecture, engineering, construction, owners, and GIS firms with improving workflows and integrating project delivery technology. 25 years later, and that mission still holds true. Microdesk is a well-established AECO consulting firm with 13 offices in the US and UK. We have over 230 AECO consultants, solution specialists, and software developers that can help in all sectors, all disciplines, and all stages. Some of the hottest topics in the AECO world are globalization, urbanization, and sustainability. Urbanization studies suggest that the U.S. will build 114 cities the size of Boston in the next 30 years. Here at Microdesk, we can help to make sure you're prepared to meet those demands. We use software from industry leaders and combine it with our vision and passion for sustainability to meet the demands of urbanization. Our team of industry expert consultants are redefining project delivery and asset management. We're committed to helping clients realize the business benefits of BIM quickly and economically by facilitating the use of innovative technologies and processes. Whether it's streamlining your design, construction, or operations, our consulting team is the nation's largest and most experienced group of AECO technology consultant professionals. To help support the industry with these demands of urbanization, we provide full-service consulting. This includes building information modeling services, technology assessments, CIO advisory, and much, much more. We partner with world leaders such as Autodesk and IBM to utilize innovative technologies and methodologies to empower sustainable design and overcome local challenges. Our vision is to reduce the environmental impact of urbanization by helping the AECO industry to design, construct, and operate better projects more efficiently by leveraging the full potential of BIM, VDC, and asset management. Now, Brad and Alex will jump on to take you through today's webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jasenia, and thank you, everyone, for taking a few moments out of your day to join the webinar. We recognize that everyone's probably suffering from a little bit of webinar fatigue and online fatigue at this point, so we really appreciate your time. And we'll try to make this as brief and as interesting as we possibly can. So, my name is Brad Hurst, and I lead a group inside of Microdesk called the CIO Advisory Services Group. And I come from the industry side of the equation. I was most recently 10 years as the CIO at EYP Architecture and Engineering. And so the topic that we're going to talk about today actually resonates very well with me. I understand it kind of from both sides of the equation at this point, and hopefully I can add a few insights or at least give my perspective on what some of the components of the program are about. But first, I'd like to also introduce you to Alex, my partner in this presentation. Alex, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sorry, Brad, having issues with you. Welcome to the world of remote. Thank you very much, Brad. So many of you may know me. I've been with Microdesk about 16 years now. I've handled a lot of the licensing and deployment of the software questions for maybe potentially a lot of you guys listening today, since 2004, 2005 time range. Before I came to Microdesk, I was a project architect for 10 years. So I'm like Brad, my background is in architecture, but we've established, I think, a pretty good set of skills within Microdesk around Autodesk offerings and the the ways in which these new licensing models are going to, help you guys deliver on the projects and deliverables that you need to. So thank you.
Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is our agenda for the day, and again, we don't think this will take a full hour, but we'll see how it plays out. And I'm going to just read through these just in case somebody's listening to the webcast that maybe can't see the display on their iPhone, or they're just listening to it, the audio portion of it. But we're going to cover several topics around premium subscription, including centralized purchasing, Autodesk 24/7 live support, user-based usage reporting, single sign-on, one of my favorites, the overall modern experience that this brings into the Autodesk suite, as well as new management roles, and then finally renewals. Next slide. So to start out here, just from a general eligibility standpoint, I think it's important to note that this is a plan that it's really designed for those who have kind of 50 seats and above, first off, and then secondly, kind of a prerequisite to this program is the notion of migrating to a single user or single seat licensing approach, which if you've spoken with your Microdesk account reps recently, you're probably already aware of this program in terms of where the opportunities are to move from a multi-user paradigm to a named user paradigm or a single user paradigm. So next slide. So the first topic here, centralized purchasing. It is kind of exactly what it says it is. And let me just start by saying a lot of these features, for me at least, as a former CIO in an AE firm, kind of resonate in the context of a lot of what we're seeing today, which is, the workforce is becoming much more distributed, much more complex, right? You have a lot more different partnering relationships, people working inside, outside of the company. And oddly enough, one of the ways to kind of combat those forces or better manage those types of forces is to look for strategies that are more centralized and actually more simplified, right? Actually, two words that show up in the very first sentence here of this paragraph, oddly enough. Centralized, this is about centralized purchasing and how it simplifies purchasing for all the subsidiaries you manage. Parent companies can buy subscriptions regardless of location. Centralized purchasing provides the same benefit as extra territory rights that some of you might be familiar with today. Especially in larger, I would say larger firms that have offices both national and international. They're certainly a lot more familiar with the territory rights program. So this is something that really kind of literally centralizes and simplifies that licensing model, which I think will be a breath of fresh air to those of you that are kind of doing distributed purchasing. So, and what we'll do here throughout the deck here, I'll kind of introduce the higher level ideas, and then Alex will jump in on the kind of next level deep here to show a few more specifics. But I'll just say the goal of this presentation is not necessarily to do a deep dive into any of these topics, but just to provide enough information that gives you kind of a framework of what the premium subscription is about. And on subsequent presentations or conversations with your account reps and so forth, we can definitely get into the deeper dive topics.
Thanks, Brett. So yeah, as Brett mentioned, any of these topics, if they pique your interest or you want more information, certainly contact through your account reps and they can pull in myself, Brad, or any other resources Microdesk has to offer to really leverage and get you the answers that you're looking for. As Brad mentioned here, really the benefits in the centralized purchasing are going to provide two key real benefits, right? You're going to allow your employees and your contractors to be able to use any of the software worldwide without having to deal with independent ETR fees. So if you guys aren't familiar with extra territory rights, and you do work in various regions as far as Autodesk is concerned, you would have had to have accommodated those previously. By moving into the premium plan and the single user subscription model, those worries go away. Ultimately, anybody can work on any of your company's projects or any of your subsidiaries' projects with the same license, no matter where you are in the world. From that purchasing standpoint, a couple of specifics to keep in mind as to how they've designed this program. Headquarters is the purchasing agent for all subsidiaries, with the option that a subsidiary can continue to purchase for themselves. Really, those are the two methods to acquiring new licensing. Any of these other are examples of how the system would not support. So subsidiaries purchasing for one another is not supported. Subsidiaries purchasing for the parent organization is not part of this program. And to be considered as a subsidiary, the parent company must hold at least 50% stake in the subsidiary organization. They're pretty straightforward, rules, and hopefully that gives you sort of a baseline of what the centralized purchasing is about and how it works.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I mean, already we're seeing kind of through centralization, you get more efficiency and just a lot less complexity. So that's all good stuff. Autodesk, let's now talk about Autodesk 24/7 live support. So for those of us who have been in the industry for any period of time, frankly, we know that often the day doesn't fit itself into the typical 9 to 5 workday. Sometimes it's later in the day, sometimes it's earlier, and certainly as the remote workforce continues on, it becomes even more varied. By the same token, sometimes people are crunching on deadlines over weekends. Certainly in mid to large size firms, you have time zone issues that you're dealing with in terms of when you're actually in operation. You might be in operation 24 hours a day, frankly, if you have offices in all different time zones or multiple time zones. So 24/7 live support is actually a really nice benefit in that regard in terms of how a customer can connect with a specialist to get help with technical issues during essentially all time, including nights and weekends.
So just to extend on there, I mean, you still get, maintain the offerings with the standard subscription, having access to live chat, having access to web cases, but the addition of the live support is something that is clearly going to be something I think a lot of people are going to enjoy having. And as we move into how better to support organizations, this is an exclusive offering with Microdesk. We are preparing to provide access to our priority support system for any company who purchases the premium subscription through Microdesk. This on top of the Autodesk offering allows you to have Microdesk help you with any of the user assignment needs that you may incur as part of the transition. It also means that we're going to be dedicating a certain dedicated number of our team to assist your team, which means that from a level 1 response sort of perspective, you've got people who are going to be responding to your issues, who are over time going to learn your processes and your workflows, will be better situated to recognize patterns, because that small team are your first line of support. And as you open cases with us, call our hotline, you'd be flagged as a priority customer. You'd get the enhanced benefits of having periodic account reviews to bring new insights into how your team is using the software, the issues that they're having, and try and manage down some of the complexities of moving into these platforms that have lots of moving parts and people may not be totally familiar with. So this is a great addition when you do purchase through Microdesk for any of the premium plans.
Might actually think of it as a sort of logical extension to your existing BIM organization or your IT support group. Again, as firms become increasingly kind of distributed and working in different modes, these types of things actually make a big difference in terms of how and where you can get support and what time of the day, et cetera. So the next topic here, user-based usage reporting. So this kind of, for me, this kind of falls under the category of data-driven decision-making, right, is a topic you hear a lot, right? The idea that, which is a very modern idea, right? It's this notion that you no longer have to guess, right, in a lot of cases in terms of what things are or how they're working or how much you're using or utilization, right, in sort of a modern environment like the type that we're talking about here, and a lot of the direction, certainly the direction that Autodesk continues to move into, right? You actually have an opportunity to get real data about how you use the products, which users are using products. You might find that you're overusing or underusing some products that you're paying for. So this becomes a useful tool come renewal time or additional purchase time or less purchase time even, in terms of how you can kind of load balance or right size, let's say, your investment in software against actual usage information. This is actually a really good thing, I think. So
yeah, as we continue through the premium plan offerings, the introduction of user reporting is really going to help. With having the single user access is going to simplify access for the users that you have, but the people who are using the right tools will become very apparent as you're looking at the dashboards that the premium plans are going to bring down to make available to your organizations. They will support drill down into, on a per user basis, what products they are using, the total days, with some divisions of by product. They'll produce for you usage graphs of product usage over time, identify various versions that people might be using. And this is all really to as Brad said, sort of give you leverage to control the costs by assigning and making sure that people are using the right tools for the job, as well as give you the visibility to make decisions about how you're spending your money to direct it toward the applications that may not have a cost associated. If they're if they can use a viewer or move certain workflows into a product like a BIM 360 design, where some of the people who may have consumed a expensive license can do the markup or the review types of workflows that they have with tools that don't cost you anything additional from a editing licensing perspective. I think this is one of Brad's favorites.
One of my favorites, yes, single sign-on, and it's one of my favorites for a very simple reason from a user standpoint. As organizations continue to move to cloud services and mobile computing, and that sort of paradigm continues to happen, guess what also happens? You have more usernames and passwords to remember. And probably you've heard that maybe from if you're on the IT side of the equation, you probably heard that from your user base in terms of, God, how many usernames and passwords do I have to remember? So that's why single sign-on exists, right? It's been in the industry for quite a few years now, and so I'm really happy to see that the Autodesk products are now compliant with, through SAML, which is kind of an industry standard. Now fit into that single sign-on equation, right? In essence, it allows you to have one password to remember, depending on how many things are single sign-on. Say, for example, you tie this to your Active Directory environment, your network authentication environment, or through through your Office 365 sign-in environment. In this type of a model, what single sign-on says is, okay, well, I'd use the same username and password both in Office 365 and in BIM 360, or on Autodesk on my desktop, as an example, such that if the password changes, guess what? You don't have to change it separately in two different places. You change it once and it changes everywhere. That's basically the concept of single sign-on. So this is good stuff in my book.
So as this plan rolls out, right? You guys are going to purchase a premium plan. What does this mean for your organization? I think Autodesk is taking a really, they're making a sincere, effort to deliver value. The program that they've laid out for enabling single sign-on in an organization is one that really tries to take into account, ultimate success of the adoption of single sign-on throughout the entire organization. It's a phased approach. They've dedicated a new role within their organization termed a customer onboarding specialist, and really primarily the objective here is to ensure a smooth transition from the current situation that you have with single user sign-on or potentially network licensing into a single sign-on environment that takes into account business goals, coordinates the effort related to doing the transition around competing IT projects that might be ongoing and in competition for resourcing, and allow you to plan out and execute using resources that you have made available to test and ensure that the solution is going to work when you go into production, to reduce any kinds of hiccups and ensure that you're getting the value out of the additional premium plan cost. So to that end, what is exactly single sign-on going to do for you? This is a little bit of a sort of a phased approach from Autodesk. Currently, single sign-on is going to provide authentication services for your applications and and web services that you're authenticating against. The Autodesk system will prompt back to your authentication source for initial login. It will then cache those credentials for a period of time, so that when users are signing in, it should be fairly transparent to them. But at this first round, this is simply authentication. It does not really address what a future roadmap item, the Active Directory group synchronization, will address. And what that's going to allow to have happen is to have the self-registered users, when they log into a system, be allocated directly to a team within the new modern management methodology to grant access to a particular set of software. So currently, on day one, when this rolls out, until the Active Directory group synchronization is made available, the self-registration will occur. The user account will be provisioned within the Autodesk environment, but an administrator will still need to make an assignment of that user account to a particular product. And I think some of the changes that they're making in the experience are going to facilitate doing this somewhat more rapidly than you currently have access to it. I want to bring your attention to a couple of items here. So as your accounts are migrated into this modern experience, you'll notice under the user management a few new items that you can select from. There's by user management, by product management, and classic user management. Predominantly, the desktop design applications will be managed through either by user or by product at your option. There are, however, a few items in the repository of Autodesk software that will continue to be using the classic user management interface. We'll talk a little bit more about the roles and sort of how that breaks down in a few minutes, but one of the things that you'll notice is if in the user management environment, under the team allocation, you notice an NA. The NA is really the identification that that is a product that is managed in the classic mode. To facilitate having groups of people who have self-registered be allocated to a particular product, you can certainly manage that through the by product registration, where you're adding a number of users to a particular product at a single, in a single instance. So this isn't going to be something that's going to take, all afternoon to step through, 50 or 500 users and assign them one by one to a product. A lot of these, issues have been raised to Autodesk, and they've responded, I think, with some solutions that you'll find useful. The one thing that we would, I think, note at this point, when you are removing users from products, make sure you do deallocate the user from the product. Don't just remove, don't just remove the product, because that can, at the moment, create some issues. So we talked a little bit a few minutes ago about new roles, and as we go into this new modern experience in the user management interface, we're really introducing two different functions. There's a primary and a secondary admin role. The key thing to note, they're basically, from a functional standpoint, identical, with two caveats. There can only be one person identified as a primary admin, and that really, sort of is leveraged by the Autodesk purchasing program to identify where the seat allocations for the premium plans are going to be calculated from. And then secondary admins are the people who are, one, unlimited. You can assign as many secondary admins as you want, and those are the people who your organizations are going to depend on, at least in the initial rollout of this, to deploy the assets to the correct people. And the fact that they're making that an unlimited an unlimited role assignment means that you don't end up getting bottlenecked into having one or two people in an organization like you previously did with the software coordinator or contract manager who had to make assignments, and maybe they were off for the day or in a different region, where contacting them was sort of a bottleneck to becoming productive as quickly as possible. In our exclusive offering of adding priority support, one of the ways that we're going to be able to assist you in managing these types of changes and initial setup is you would be able to set up, and we've already created a email alias that you can add to your secondary admin pool, named secondaryadmin@microdesk.com, which will allow our support personnel to log into your management environment to make some of those assignments on your behalf, should you want us to do that. So, I mean, this is all, we're trying to tie the sort of offerings together and eliminate any of the pain points that you guys might see in the initial offering, the way it's been presented from Autodesk. So this sort of rolls a little bit into how the premium plans are administered and from a renewal standpoint renewed. So bring your attention to Jeff, the highlighted primary admin in this description. So we'll see both Jeff and Carl are primary admins, and they have subscriptions under their administratorship for various numbers of seats. And above that, you'll notice that the SSO administration is handled at the company level. So there's a couple of aspects of how the premium plan renewals will work. The renewals themselves will be tallied based on the subscriptions that are brought under the the primary administrator who purchases the premium subscription plan. When Jeff went and did that initially, his organization as a whole got access to single sign-on. So now those 60 users in Denver that Carl manages also have access to single sign-on, because that is handled at the sort of top level domain registration for the organization. periodically, Autodesk is going to true up the premium plan. And so what this means is when you add or let expire seats during the term of your contract, you're not going to add additional premium plan subscriptions at the time of a new purchase of a new seat. This is really to simplify the offering from an overall standpoint. And on the renewal period, currently the premium plans are renewed on an annual term. They will be trued up to the quantity of licenses tallied under the premium plan, under the primary administrator's role. So in this scenario, Jeff would be looking to renew his 80 seats. You may additionally want to promote Jeff to an administrator of the entire organization, in which case Carl would be set to a secondary admin role, where now Jeff has the ability to bring the entire organization into the premium plan. And from Jeff's promotion to a primary admin and over all of Denver, New York, and San Francisco, he can purchase the premium plan subscription for all 140 seats in this particular example. So it's, I guess the key point here is to understand that the calculations for the renewal, they are not retroactive. They are the snapshot of the time of the renewal. So that means on the expiration of that 1-year term, Autodesk is going to look at how many licenses or subscriptions Jeff has primary administratorship over, and that will be the total number that is calculated for the renewal. That's pretty much all there is to say about that. I guess the sort of final item here is relating to how the transition to named user is going to be implemented, and really somehow how the strategy to minimize friction in the adoption is being structured. So Brad had mentioned in the very first set of slides that this entire program is predicated on moving to single user. So all of the organizations out there who are on current multi-user contracts, whether they be subscription, term-based, or perpetual, the sale of those, the renewal of those programs are going to be phased out and will retire a year from August 7th. So August 7th, 2021, you will no longer be able to renew those that type of plan. In the interim period between August 7th of this year, when the program opens, and the end of life for multi-user plans, Autodesk is offering, and only on the first renewal, a 2-for-1 offer to ease the transition so that you don't have to think about so much how many users do I have versus concurrent users, right? So the multi-user environment was largely based on a concurrency model. That model is being retired with those plans. So as we move to named user, every user who needs to access the system will need a subscription in their, assigned to their login, and to mitigate any challenges that would present on your first renewal. If you transfer to single user, they'll give you 2 single user licenses for every 1 multi-user license that you currently had at the time. Brad, would you want to add anything around this?
Let's see. So, yeah, I mean, on the 2-for-1 or on the named user, let me talk about named user a little bit along with single sign-on. So, yeah, I actually like both of these parts of the program because, I think they directly, number one, they provide the centralized access, they help to reduce complexity, right? That's kind of a given, which is great. But those 2 types of things in particular, first of all, like single sign-on, one of the other benefits of that I really like, that a lot of people don't think about, is from a security standpoint, which people that manage networks have to think about these things. And the idea that once you are fully enabled in single sign-on across all of your apps, which is not, that's not a casual undertaking, and we can certainly help you with those types of programs and initiatives if you need the help. But the idea is that when somebody is added to the firm or removed from the firm, right, you could literally just disable their network account, and through single sign-on, you're disabling it for everything that is set up for SSO. So you wouldn't have to track down, for example, if marketing uses MailChimp, or if you use Office 365 or G Suite or Autodesk tools, right? All of those would essentially be disabled at the same time under a single sign-on model. So that's kind of an important concept. Another important concept around that, in combination with named user, is that it really removes the barriers that you might be experiencing between accessing stuff on-prem, through on-premise when you're in your physical office, versus accessing something when you're outside of the office. Not just given the challenges of today with remote working, but increasingly a lot of firms are talking about not going completely back to the way that they were. That's not to say they won't have a physical office presence, but you could imagine, for example, and I would certainly look at this in my own firm. If I were adopting these types of tools, I would look at the broader implications of it. So named user, single sign-on, those are things that directly could help feed not only larger programs around single sign-on and things like that, but they speak directly to things like work-life balance policies and procedures, right, that you might have at an HR level, right? These are tools that actually help enable, frankly, the modern workplace. And so it's not a small thing by any stretch. I mean, these are actually really important components that become very foundational, given that Autodesk is a big part of your environment, but they also kind of lay groundwork for broader programs around similar types of offerings across even broader product suites, which again, in the CIO advisory group, we work with basically all types of products, not just Autodesk products. And if you need help with those types of things, we can certainly assist there. But I would just encourage you to think about these things in terms of what's really the positive impact that these things have on the workplace, and how people can have more access to not single sign-on, but self-service. That's another component that these things start to add, is the ability for users to have self-service access to some of these tools without having to go through IT in a number of cases. So it's a lot of really cool things here when you really think about it. So I wouldn't kind of shortchange it. I would actually think seriously about some of these.
So I think that brings us sort of to the end of the formal presentation, and I think we can open it up to any questions. So just do you have anybody who's entered any questions into the question panel?
We have not had anyone ask any questions in the question control panel. So if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask them in the questions box. But we haven't had any questions just yet. We'll give folks just a few more minutes. If they have any questions to ask, please feel free to ask in the questions box.
It's definitely a lot of information to take in. It's a lot of new information, and you'll start to hear this multiple times, right? So this won't be the first time that you'll hear this, and you'll get more information over time. But again, if you think about technology as an investment, which I certainly do that, then these are the types of tools and functions and features that actually help you to enable that investment in more meaningful ways. That's exactly how I think about it. How can I extend the capabilities of what we're investing in to be better, more self-service oriented, more flexible, and more agile in terms of how and where people want to work or need to work. Those things are really strong themes these days, And not a day goes by when I'm not on a call with a client where we're talking about exactly those items. So to me, these types of features fit directly into that sweet spot and help to enable those types of capabilities and aspirations.
And I think, the other thing to note is I think Autodesk understands that the software is expensive, and they're trying to give everyone the tooling that they really need in order to make sure that you're not spending more than you need to, and you have the visibility to make those decisions with some sort of educated basis behind it. So I guess this sort of brings us to the end then, if nobody has any questions.
Yeah, and if anyone has...
Yep, sorry, John.
No. I was just going to say, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact us at any time. Sorry, Brad, go ahead.
No, I wasn't talking.
Oh, sorry, Alex, go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, I was basically going to say the same thing. So if anybody does have any questions, like we mentioned earlier, reach out through your sales reps. They can certainly get any technical questions that you might have answered. And if you want to take a deeper dive into what any of these particular offerings for either the premium plans or just in general the move to subscription might mean for your organization specifically, we can certainly assist there. We can certainly try and help you have a better understanding of, in this transition, how many users do you need to accommodate, and help try and guide you through potentially reworking some of your processes and procedures that might help you reduce the overall costs that you might be incurring, had you just got design, edit, licensing in place for every single user, regardless of the way in which a particular role might be using that software or the sort of the need that their role has within the organization.
Great. Well, we appreciate everybody's time and hope you guys have a great day. And
oh, sorry, we did get one question. Sorry.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yes. It was asked, can you talk a little about strategy for how a company may determine how many named users or license subscriptions they may require when they currently have been using the multi-user accounts? It's a long question, so let me know if you want me to repeat it.
That's cool. So I think the short answer is, in a multi-user environment where you've got network license servers, those license servers can have utilization logging enabled. We can certainly take a snapshot of how the usage looks for the network access over a period of time. I wouldn't want to sort of make any judgments based on, let's say, less than 2 or 3 weeks worth of data at a minimum. But the larger amount of data that you've got before you need to make a decision, the more informed you can sort of be about it. And we'll basically be looking at a breakdown of between all of the products that fall within the different licensing packages, how many people on a unique basis are accessing products that are, let's say, within the AEC collection, or potentially they access programs that are in the collection, but you may also have some tooling that's not part of the collection to identify sort of bundled license access versus point product access that you might need. Similarly, for the single user, there is some very, very limited reporting that you can get out of the Manage console that can be leveraged to identify unique users of particular softwares that you may want to reevaluate when you're making renewal decisions. Does that help? If you want more specific information, just add it back to the question window and we can go into more detail.
They said, yes, it does. Thank you. All right, well, it doesn't seem like we have any more questions. Once again, please feel free to reach out to us at any time if you have any questions. But if there are no more questions, I think we'll just wrap it up here. So thank you folks for tuning in, and please stay safe.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.